Lord of the Mysteries. Chapter 533. Mr. 4,200 pounds. There is danger in the inn. Klein softly chanted the divination statement, entered cogitation, and then flipped a gold coin. Clang! A faint but crisp sound echoed in the quiet room. The gold coin tumbled and fell, landing in Klein's palm. It was tails, indicating a negative response. No danger. With a frown, Klein looked around and pulled out a bottle of insect-repelling essential oil from his coat on the coat rack. He sprinkled a circle around him, then he quickly took 4 steps counterclockwise, entering the gray fog to make a divination for confirmation. In about 10 seconds, he received a revelation: there was still no danger. Returning to the real world, Klein shook his head, put the gold coin and bottle back, wore his coat, trousers, and boots before sitting at the edge of his bed, leaning back against the pillow as he placed great caution on this turn of events. He still remembered his seer principles, especially the one about divination is not all-powerful. So even if the answers he received indicated it was safe, he didn't dare to relax and return to his slumber. This isn't to say that he didn't believe in the gray fog's ability to shield him from interference, but rather that there were too many possibilities. His divination statement might not be accurate enough to cover them all, resulting in his misinterpretation. He already had a guess about what had just happened. It was that the 4 adventurers in the restaurant had indeed found the abandoned and forgotten ancient temple in the primitive forest on Simeem Island. They had obtained wealth or cultural relics, but they had also stirred the barely surviving evil spirits, causing them to be plagued by evil thoughts and curses. Time ticked by, and Klein suddenly felt a subtle spirituality fluctuation spread out from the room and quickly blend into the surrounding darkness. The hidden flow that he had barely sensed vanished, and the tranquility of the night returned. As expected. It's a result of beyond our powers. It was solved just like that. I'll just wait a little longer. It would be dawn in an hour or 2 anyway. Even if there really is a problem, this place has a cathedral and a mandated Punishers team. Klein half closed his eyes and began to engage in cogitation. By him, a merest leaf bar. Danitz, determined to hoodwink any monitoring, carried a cup of Lanty-proof and drunkenly watched as the girls on the boxing ring danced a hot, sexy dance. Dogs hit! It's been so long since they've lost a single piece of clothing, he shouted with the other drunks. Then, ignoring whether they received any response, they laughed out loud, clinked glasses, and drank. Have you read the newspapers? A man who was fooling around in the bar late at night burped and said to his companions, Did your brain get eaten by a donkey? Do you think that I can read those twisting and turning letters of the alphabet? Holy Lord of Storms, I'm only interested in this kind of twisting and turning. Ha! His companion raised his glass and pointed at the dancers, laughing at what he thought was a humorous answer. The man who had spoken earlier smacked the back of his head. Steele is dead! He was killed by blazing. The nearby Danitz was stunned for a moment, then he sat up, turning his head slightly. He cleared his throat and took a sip of the liquor, acting as if nothing had happened, but he secretly inched closer to hear what the others had to say about the matter. The adventurer and part-time pirate who had brought him into the trade had once said that life at sea would have been meaningless without liquor, women, and boasting. Steele? What steel? Let me tell you, when I was young, I once defeated a steel pipe. Another drunkard interrupted. What did you do to the steel pipe? Should I say something like, Whoa, yours sure is thin? The first man to speak revealed a knowing smile. He didn't wait for a reply as he continued. Steele Mavati is dead. The second mate of Admiral of Blood is dead. The last half of his words came out in a low growl. It frightened one of the fellows who was already wavering to slip to the bottom of the table as he raved in horror. It wasn't me, I didn't do it. Dogs hit! A bar is always so chaotic. Hurry up and get to the point. I'm waiting for you to praise Lord Blazing. The disguised Danitz couldn't wait to smash the cup of alcohol in his hand at the group. The papers mention that it was jointly done by the Navy and the Church. Steele is dead, Blood Brambles is dead. Even Calm Squall is dead. John Smith and that bunch of assholes have been caught as well. A drunk who was still a little lucid came over and joined in on the conversation. No, no, no. That's not the truth. The man who raised the topic first shook his head with a smile. I have a friend working at the news agency. He told me that he has verifiable intel that cannot be published. The Navy and the Church were only used. The true murderer is Blazing Danitz, and a mysterious, experienced, and powerful adventurer, a bounty hunter. Impossible! There's absolutely no way Blazing Danitz can defeat Steele. Even if it's a sneak attack, there's no way he can finish Steele. A few drinkers shared similar viewpoints. The crux is that powerful adventurer. I suspect he's an adventurer nearing the rank of a pirate admiral, the man who had started the conversation emphasized. I've no idea how Danitz got to know that guy. He contributed in the matter. Apparently, Blood Brambles was finished off by him. Didn't you notice? Blazing's bounty has increased to 4,200 pounds. That's right. Really? Blazing sure isn't simple. What a fierce pirate, no, a great pirate. Great pirates? I really couldn't tell the last time I drank with him. Pooey! You son of a bitch, when did I ever drink with you? I don't even know you. Amidst the exclamations, Danitz thought in delight. 4,200 pounds. If those fellows were to know, they would definitely get up at night to wipe the deck in envy. Ha ha ha, I can now be said to be the strongest bosun on the Golden Dream. At this moment, Danitz wished he could fly back to the ship and drink and brag with fellows like Iron Skin and Barrel, telling them all about the thrilling events in Banshee Harbor, how he had defeated the fallen bishop, how he had cleverly escaped from the ambush of Steele and the others, how he had set up a trap to finish off all his enemies, and how he would never be able to play the card game of life ever again. Unfortunately, for the sake of Captain, I still have to continue to be the servant of Gehrman Sparrow, that man. Sigh, I'm already a great 4,200-pound pirate. Danitz sighed, allowing himself to continue to be paralyzed by the alcohol. As the Storm Cathedral's bells rang, the orange sun rose in the sky. The surroundings were still so quiet that only the sound of water could be heard. Without encountering anything abnormal, Klein exhaled in relief and took off his clothes, returned to bed, and made up for his lack of sleep by sleeping for another 2 more hours. His considerable spirituality allowed him to wake up at the scheduled time of 8:30 a.m. He washed up slowly, changed his clothes, and went to the first floor to buy a loaf of bread with cooked chestnuts and a glass of Gurney's sap. He ate as he walked to the dock. Since he had already bought his return tickets for the 9 o'clock liner, Klein kept watch of the time and prepared to board the ship. At that moment, he saw the lady with the greenish-gray eyes, as well as the 3 male adventurers from her team. They were buying tickets at the ticket office. The liner is about to leave. They definitely wouldn't be able to make it in time for the 9 o'clock trip. I wonder what they obtained from the abandoned temple, but last night they attracted an existence similar to an evil spirit. Please don't let anything unexpected happen when they ride on the liner. Klein used his body to block the adventurer's line of sight, took out a gold coin, and made a divination. His revelation was that the later liner wouldn't be in danger. Klein hesitated for 2 seconds, looked at the passengers waiting for the 10 o'clock liner near the ticket office, rubbed his fingers together in silence, and lit the ticket in his palm. He went back to the ticket office as if nothing had happened and bought the 10 o'clock liner ticket for 4 soldi. Then, he went to the washroom at the docks, went above the gray fog, and quickly divined his worries. He knew very well that if the results showed that there were great dangers, he wouldn't take the risk of boarding the ship. Instead, he would find a way to prevent the ship from sailing and destroy it, if necessary, to prevent any innocents from dying. If the revelation was the same as the divination from before, he would ride it normally while keeping a lookout for any accidents. In the end, he still received a negative answer. Klein was relieved and returned to the real world. He adjusted the position of the Murloc's bladder for quick access. If an accident really happened, this beyonder ingredient would become quite important in the vast ocean. This beyonder ingredient could also be used in a rudimentary, simple manner, just like the all-black eye which had been contaminated by the true creator. 10 o'clock sharp. Klein, in his Gehrman Sparrow appearance, picked up his suitcase, followed the adventurers, and boarded the liner. Along the way, he appeared to doze off or read old newspapers and magazines on the ship, but in actual fact, he was keeping an eye on the greenish-gray-eyed lady and her companions. This wariness continued all the way to the port of Byam, but no accidents occurred in the middle. Did they resolve all the problems? What did they actually get? Klein stopped by the side of the road, bought the latest newspaper from a newsboy, and watched the 4 adventurers from the corner of his eye until they disappeared. Phew! Klein decided to not think about it anymore. As long as it didn't endanger the overall situation, he wasn't concerned about what those people had done. He was just a little curious. He picked up his suitcase, leafing through the papers as he walked down Acid Lemon Street like an ordinary passerby. Suddenly, with a chuckle, he said to himself, "The bounty for Danitz has risen to £4,200. If things continued like this, he suspected whether he could resist the urge of sending the fellow to the Governor-General's office." Walking back to the Wind of Azure Inn, Klein heard undulated snores that were slowly reaching a crescendo before he even took out his keys. He didn't escape? Klein was slightly surprised, but he wasn't too surprised either. He had previously tampered with Shadow Cloak, so as long as Danitz left, he could use divination methods to track him down and find the Vice Admiral Iceberg. Although he's timid, he's still cautious. Klein opened the door and entered, looking at Danitz, who awoke with a start. He grinned a little. "Congratulations, Mr. £4,200. Danitz was instantly wide awake, wanting to laugh dryly in response, but he couldn't. At this moment, he felt that his life might be in danger.